Hello and welcome to Brick System Brothers. My name is Nathan Masters, and today I'm going to review the Medieval Blacksmith. This is idea set number 33, I believe. Just double check here on the box. Yep, 21325 is the set number, and this was released earlier this year in 2021. We're going to dive into the roof. You can open the roof up and take off the levels. We'll look at some of the very nice minifigures that come with the set and some of the prints that have been done that are brand new, that we will hopefully see coming up in 2021 here and beyond. And then talk a little bit about, the shift to these black boxes and kind of the 18 plus branding on here, maybe how that doesn't go as well with ideas. Talk about that a little bit as well. But there's plenty to look at right here on the set itself. The main build, of course, is this little cottage. And yeah, lots of nice colors on here, some recolors, plenty of stuff to talk about, so let's jump right in. So I'm going to start this review with the instructions, because that's where you actually start building. And it just so happens that there's some nice introduction stuff within the first couple pages here. And being an ideas set, this does have a page about the fan designer. So Clemens Fiedler is a 22-year-old German student and worked on the initial concept for this set, which looked like this. It was submitted to the Ideas platform in 2017, and the LEGO group developed it from there after it gained enough support. And then these guys are employees of the LEGO group. They were in charge of translating the initial concept into the final product. And they have to work within a lot of the official guidelines from the LEGO group. From a standpoint of the company, as fan creators, we can pretty much have free reign with our creations, but when you're looking at the products they put out, there really is a closely tied LEGO DNA that they are very conscious of and like to work within. On the third page, there's an interesting spread about the previous Blacksmith sets within the LEGO range, some of the different themes that they have had these little builds within. And there's a little timeline down here that shows 4 of the main ones: 1984, 2002, 2011, and then it places the current set, 2021, kind of in the next line. I want to talk about a second timeline related to the ideas development. Like I just mentioned, it was submitted to the platform in 2017, late 2017, and received enough votes within the first 60 days to continue on the platform. And then this was the original submission. Keep an eye on these proportions, because I do want to talk about how closely the final model is related to the original submission, which is sometimes a point of contention with LEGO Ideas, because the fans who vote for the submitted model feel like they should receive a set that closely resembles it, and when that doesn't happen, there are, justifiably some upset people. The next point is July 2019, and that's when the project received 10,000 supporters. And this milestone is necessary for everything on LEGO Ideas. This is the current milestone for a project to move forward and be considered to be a LEGO set. Next, in February 2020, it was approved to be moved forward in the development phase. At this point in the process, a lot of the sets that reach the 10K supporter milestone get rejected, and they just don't move forward with the process. So every step of the way along this timeline is kind of a narrowing of the field of possible LEGO sets that move through this program. And the final point is February 2021, earlier this year, when it was released on the LEGO site to be sold, to be picked up from there. And this is considered a D2C set, so direct to consumer or direct to customer, usually marketed only through the LEGO channels, which is the online store and the brand retail stores. So it may pop up every once in a while somewhere else, but kind of the general release for LEGO sets that you see in different retailers like Walmart here in the US, and then other toy stores in the UK. These larger sets generally don't go through those channels, and so the D2C is just a term that clarifies this is more of an exclusive product. So once you get through the initial part of the instructions, shows you how to use a brick separator, in case you don't know, It does a little bit of a breakdown, just showing you which bags will build the model, and then you jump right into it. And I'm happy to see that these are printed on the lighter background. That was something that kind of got through the feedback system. Some of these idea sets and 18 plus sets designed for the adult fan of Lego being printed on the dark background. Some of the darker pieces like the black and the dark grays, it was hard to tell sometimes what those were when you were building. So I think by the time I bought my copy of the set, that feedback had worked its way through, and this book was printed on the lighter background. Still a little bit of an off-white color, but not it's not this matte black that we have in the first couple pages. So yeah, that's where you start building the set, and that's where I wanted to start, just covering a few things related to the origins of the set and why it's not really the same as your traditional set. It actually has just over 3 years of history prior to being released. The majority of the pieces included will be used to build the 3-story building, which is very robust, substantial structure. They definitely did it justice. But there are a couple of additional pieces that won't be used in the structure, and these include 4 minifigures and a little carriage, traveler's carriage, with our Falcon Knights, Black Falcon Knights. And they have an updated print on the torso. I did find one of my old ones. It's quite worn out, but you can see that they maintained the color scheme, even if this is pretty worn down. The black wing goes over a silver background on the right, and that is maintained on the updated prints, along with much more detail, some creasing on the fabric, and a little bit of loop around the collars. So 2 of these knights are included, and just opens it up for developing a little bit of a storyline if you'd like. And then if there's kids role-playing and storytelling with this, it's very dynamic with the horse and the carriage, and just having a component of the set that isn't fixed and stationary does a lot for that storytelling aspect. Our other minifigs are supposedly included to populate the house. So we have the blacksmith himself and another female character with a bow and arrow, a little quiver of arrows there. And yeah, nice to have some additional figures included. Could have just done the blacksmith very easily. I think we have her included because there was a similar character in the initial submission that this character is kind of based on. So blacksmith has a very recent hairpiece done in the dark orange paired with the beard, and some nice leather apron material printed on. And our archer is got dual molded legs. So these are the dark tan and reddish brown dual mold, and then a green vest. I think the green vest is a recent new print, originally released with the Pirates of Barracuda Bay, which is another successful large ideas set. So ideas we really have to thank for some of these brilliant minifigure prints coming out that are useful not just within this setting, but are generic enough to see a lot of use outside of a medieval setting. There's also a little husky and some silver metallic elements for our knights. You get a couple of these updated shields with that motif on there. Some helmets in the pearl gray color. So this is an effect in the plastic. It's not a surface effect. And then the sword and halberd can all go in the wagon down the hill. This guy, when the set was released, was actually unique. You could only buy this horse within the blacksmith, medieval blacksmith building here. But since release, another set has been announced that actually includes this horse. So it's no longer unique. It's still pretty rare because that's only 2 sets, but interesting to see that this has not remained exclusive for long at all. In fact, let's talk about the exclusive pieces that you do pick up in the set briefly, because there's only 2. There's still only 2 of them. Now, upon release, I think this large disc, this kind of tile piece, it's a 3x3 round tile, which in and of itself is a pretty recent element. And this color, this light nugget color, had only been used in one other set, so it was pretty rare, and then it got added in here. But that's not unique. As far as I'm aware, the only two unique elements that may change in the future for one of them, the printed tools, this is probably going to remain unique to the blacksmith shop. It's very specific to the set, and based on what I've read on different interviews and websites, they actually worked with the original designer from Ideas to develop this specific logo that would be printed on the tile. So, you know, the close teamwork there between the original fan design and the Lego developers that make the decisions for this kind of thing. And the other unique element is the printed wood grain on the doors. Let's bring this up to eye level and get a closer look at that. It's also used on the main entrance door here. So it is a 1x4 tile with 2 nails on each end, and then a little bit of a wood grain with maybe a knot towards one side there. So currently still exclusive to the Medieval Blacksmith. I'm guessing that will not remain the case for long, because that is another generic kind of print piece that would see use elsewhere. And it's also not the first printed tile with wood grain. It's just kind of an updated design. I think that will be phased in if upcoming sets need that kind of pattern on there. Okay, before I do get carried away and jump into the interior and some of the specific pieces on the model, I wanted to look at more of a general floor plan or layout and kind of the overall sense of balance in the structure. From the back here, we do see that there's kind of a bit of an offset where the upper roof and the main floor are almost shifted over to the left, where it's hanging over the basement level here. And the basement level does have a bit of an opening where this is open up above here, but it's mostly solid across this entire side until you get to that small corner where it pops out. So, you know, a bit of a feeling like it's maybe pushed off to the left side. When we get around to the garden side of the structure, it's mostly balanced. There's a little bit of weight kind of contributed from the chimney, where that goes up the side. Of course, something that's very necessary for the build, and I think it's positioned well. But the main structure is mostly centered on that middle there. Then when we come around to the forge side of the structure, we can see that that feeling of unbalance starts to disappear now that this is more opened up all the way up to the roof line. Even though there is still a small section here that has a bit of an overhang, it just feels more like, you know, even though there is a general inwarding trend as you get towards the bottom, by the time you account for all the structural elements, it does feel like a balanced model. So what's actually going on with the building itself? Well, you have 3 main floors, and they're very distinct. The upper floor is entirely contained within the slope of the roof, which does have a double pitch, so adds some variety there. And also the color blocking really helps to break up whatever may have been more of a solid sheet of color. Our dark blue and regular blue, helped out by the sand green, doing a lot for blocking that out. The main floor, with kind of the living quarters and one of the most substantial in terms of interior volume, has mostly the white and tan coloring with this wood support structure, which is very reminiscent of the time period, medieval wattle and daub, something like that, I think. And then the lowest structure, the ground level, determined by our light bluish gray and olive with these structured corners, more of a supporting stonework feel along there. It's also characterized by this setback when we were talking about the balance, where it almost feels like it's, you know, kind of sheltered underneath the main support of the model, which is good. There's also a little tree and well station going on over here. So the apple tree. This did take a while to build. It was included, I believe, because, again, looking at the original ideas submission on the platform, it had a tree. It was actually positioned kind of towards the back of the model. And I don't think it was an apple tree, so this was the compromise. We're going to include the tree like the original submission, but we're going to change it up a little bit, move it to the corner of the model. They've also reduced the base of the structure, which was quite substantial in the submission, and I'm glad they did, because this is just about the right balance of, having a place to build the model. You don't want it to just be this post sitting on your surface, but also not too much of a wasteland of empty studs. So good balance there. The roof of the structure really characterized by these 2x3 pentagonal tiles, and a very distinct piece. It has that shaping. It actually has more of a bevel on the edge than your typical Lego tile. I'm going to pop this back roof off just to take a closer look at the tiles themselves. And this is where you get multiple copies of certain parts in certain colors. So the blue in this, there's 45 of the blue, 46 of the dark blue, and then you also get a couple 17 black tiles and 8 sand green. So that sand green color only in 6 or 7 sets. Not very common, and you get a decent amount here, but really a lot of these other colors. And even for the people that want to have a solid roof color like this, I think what's going to happen is some people will want it dark blue, some people will want it regular blue, and in that case, we have the Bricklink market. So if enough people are color swapping their roof, you should have some people that are getting rid of their dark blue, and some people that are looking to pick that up. So I think that we'll find a balance, but there's going to be some shuffling around of these colors for a little while, I think. Personally, I do like having the multiple different colors on here. I might have done a little bit less of the sand green moss at the end of the day. What I've really liked that's kind of completely on the other side of the board with this was someone did this style of roof and this technique with red tiles. So that's worth checking out. And I liked the look that did give, but in this set it uses mostly the dark blue and the blue, and again the color choice here reflected from the original ideas submission. So on our top floor we have the upper part of the chimney with 2 smokestacks, a small gable here on the left side of the chimney. Now just take a look at this angle for a second. I know it's not the same, we're slightly above, but on the ideas submission, it's mostly the same layout. There's a small gable on this end of the building. There's a chimney going up here somewhere in the middle. So this one got shifted to the right, and that kind of forced this gable over the top, and now it's over here. So mostly the same layout, the stairs going up, the forge right here. Really similar in terms of the floor plan, just shifting a few of the design elements around. That's what I like to see from ideas. That means they kept the original idea, that's the core, the product core right there, and then they brought their expertise, their design style to it to make it a Lego set. So let's open this up and look inside. It's very easy to open this. There is no actual stud attachment because it relies on kind of a cradle system where we have these inverted curved slopes resting inside these 2 small panels. So that kind of just sets in there until you're ready to take it off. Relies on gravity. And then the actual bend in the roof slope is created using paired ball sockets, which is a hinge technique that's kind of picking up speed as far as I can tell in the official design world. It might have been around a little bit longer in the fan design world until it picked up popularity there. It was also used as the back hatch of the Ghostbusters Ecto-1 large-scale vehicle. So now that I have this open, if you've seen other reviews of this building, you might notice something different right away, and that is I do not have a center support pillar going down next to the bear rug here. That's something that I actually didn't build at all when I was putting this together, which I'm guilty of doing for multiple Lego sets. If there's a design element I really don't like about the official set, I won't really hesitate to just modify it myself during the build. And so actually for this one and a few of my other sets, these have never been 100% original according to instructions. But of course, that's the beauty of Lego. It is up to you at the end of the day. So I am reviewing a partially unofficial set, which is, if you want, you can leave right here. Won't be offended. But just a choice on my end as the builder to leave this a bit open so that you can access it. Another thing that I've seen mentioned regarding this support pillar in here is in an actual structure, if you want to be realistic, that kind of support, you're going to want something going all the way down through the floors to the ground level, or at least to kind of a header somewhere else in the building, just in terms of your structural stability. And we didn't really see that in the lower floors. So not really something we need to worry about at the scale. That's not crucial to supporting the massive weight of the few plastic pieces up here on the ridge. But to scale up this building and have that support in the middle, realistically, you'd want to see something underneath it. Part of the reason I took it out. The other part of the reason is I think it just gets in the way when you're looking at the beautiful interior we have up here. So a well done bedspread with some interesting green combinations here. Still not quite sure about the regular green next to the teal, but I think it does work, kind of a patchwork quilt design. And the bear rug, of course, cleverly constructed using a variety of our recent tile shapes that have really started to flourish, bringing details where, before we just had the squared 1x1 tile. More recently, the 1x1 round tile, which helped to get some of those fixtures in. And then within the last couple years, when you're looking at modular buildings and stuff where these details became more necessary, they've really added in a lot of options for that. So the bear rug utilizing many of those to get that shaping correct. I really like the writing nook that looks out through the gable. Small window there, could be looking over the countryside or over a river perhaps. And then another little nook here under the gable with this chest with a backpack. And back in the corner there, in the darkness, until I tip it up, is a last section of the fireplace before it exits through the top. So nice to see that fireplace continued all the way up and not just kind of blocked out of view. If you follow that fireplace down, you will get to the main floor, somewhere in the kitchen, where that's being used as the stovetop and the cooking corner. Otherwise, we do have a set of stairs that go up to the top. Continuity there, I like to see it. A small table, 2 chairs, and really that's all you have room for in this floor, especially since we're building these chairs at a little bit of a larger scale. Your typical minifig chair only needs to be 2x2, and then you do have to worry a little bit about the arms as far as fitting into a vehicle or something. Usually you want at least 3.5 studs. 4 is generally what is built into most structures for accommodating minifigs. In this case, the chairs are just built a little bit bigger. So the scale here may be a little different from what we're used to in terms of interiors of buildings, but I think it works well, and we do have enough room for some of the smaller accessories that you'd want to see in a kitchen, if only that. So the opening door here does go out towards the front. That opens onto this small porch. The very bottom level is our forge storehouse combination here. More of a basement, storeroom, display room. It's where he works. It's blacksmith quarters, blacksmith shop. We have the fireplace continued all the way down here to the bed of coals. And what's really nice about this is we can access the coal bed from both sides of the building. Out here we have more of the open air forge next to an anvil, and plenty of workspace around here to just let that heat really dissipate before it gets too close to you. On the inside you have the enclosed forge where maybe you could get things a little bit hotter and you're closer to your tools and your stocks of coal and iron. So well thought out there to put things kind of on both sides of it. And the icing on the cake is the working light brick, which actually is activated by pressing the billows. So kind of a built-in treat where, billows in an actual forge
responsible for moving air through the fire and getting air to that flame when increasing heat. In this case, pressing on our fake plastic billows does have a result that has much of the same outcome of a glowing fire in our forge. Kind of cool that that was built in. Underneath the stairs, there's a little stockpile of firewood, and it's not really accessible other than from that arch. So it is closed off from the side. There is a little window going through there. You know, they didn't have to put that window in, but they did. That's just the kind of level of detail we're talking about. And then this lighter color choice for the benchworks and the boxes, another happy little addition that helps set it apart, you know, in this darkened basement where maybe a reddish brown or a dark brown would blend into the darkness of the corners. And also looking at what kind of things are on the shelf here. These are darker items, the black pan, dark gray pot. We want something to help, you know, contrast those when you're looking down in at what's going on in the shop. A couple other things, you know, we got the shield and the helmet from our knights already out here, so you get a couple more to display and really fill up the volume that would otherwise seem kind of empty, I think. And then another anvil with some iron on there. And this is actually where you start the build. So the way that I just talked through it is kind of in reverse to what you experience as you're building the model. But that kind of makes sense from a standpoint of, you know, working top down. So as far as the set itself, you know, there's a few minor things I would have done different at the end of the day, which is no big deal because I'm actually going to change them myself. Like I mentioned, the beauty of Lego being so customizable, you don't have to follow the instructions piece for piece, although it does help to kind of have some common ground in the collecting world. Now, the thing that I do have a slight issue with is actually related to the box and the way that they are just putting this on the shelf in front of the consumer. And I want to make this absolutely clear. This does not outweigh at all my opinion of this set and the regard I have for a beautiful, well-executed set from the LEGO team. So the set is well done. It is outstanding value, even new. It has a lot of fun techniques. It has a lot of fun style choices. And I still think it's worth getting if you're considering it. But I want to talk about the box because this is the first thing that I saw when it was announced, and it's the first thing that someone new to LEGO will be seeing if they walk into a LEGO store and consider buying the Blacksmith. And it's the 18 plus branding on here. So if you're not familiar with 18 plus and kind of the standard that's been set over the last year or so, I think it kind of came down from the top at the LEGO group of having a separate almost branch or almost a theme of LEGO kind of more geared towards the adult collector, where they've realized there's a significant portion of a market to be sold directly to adult fans of LEGO. That's where the AFL acronym comes from. So within that kind of push to get more of their products geared towards that demographic, one of the design choices that was put through and is still in effect is the slimmed down box decoration and box packaging. It's not a lower quality at all. The packaging is still comparable across the range. It's not like they're using paper to box it up. It comes down to the style choice of having the black background. And this is where I take a slight issue. I don't want to brush over it, but I don't want to dwell on it too long either. I'll just say that I think this should have had a different background. I think it should have had an atmospheric kind of setting where it's not just the Lego set against a black surface. I would have liked to see it out in the outdoors, out in the countryside, in the mountains, wherever you want to put it. even going back a couple years and looking at some of the modular buildings, the way that those have been placed in settings, like a street life setting or a cityscape or something like that, where there's more color on the box and there's more of an environment that feels like it's part of a bigger world. And that's what's missing here on the box, I think. In the idea submission, going back to this again, the creator did put on a little bit of a render just for their cover picture. So this was kind of their main image of their project for a while. Like I mentioned, having those mountains in there. Even though there's still a clear focus on the product itself, and there's even a little bit of that halo behind there, it still has a feeling of, you know, being in part of a bigger world with that background. When I talked a little bit about this upon its announcement back in January, I think it was, this year, I also added in my own background for our thumbnail on the video. And, you know, just taking a little bit of time to find a picture that matches the aesthetic of the building. This is what I would have liked to see LEGO do for their box art. And they're really kind of sticking to this fixture of having the focus very zoomed in on the product itself and just saying, you know, this is what you're getting in this box. This is all it is. We want you to focus on this model. So not necessarily in agreement with those specific choices, and I did want to talk about it here because I don't know if I'll talk about it too much else on our channel here, Brick System Brothers. So aside from some personal opinions about the decisions of the marketing team, I really enjoy this set. It's over 2,100 pieces. 2164 is the part count here, and that comes in at a price tag of $150. So if you're familiar with price breakdowns on Lego set, usually you look at about 10 cents a piece for new sealed off the shelf of the Lego store when you're looking at stuff during the release, you know, the general product release. So if you use that formula and you start with a piece count, this should be closer to a $200 price point, and it's down at $150. So great value in terms of across the range, you know, how much Lego are you buying with your dollar. Generally on larger sets, they do take a couple dollars down off of those price points, but this is down lower than usual. In fact, if this was a modular, looking at last year, you know, the last couple of years, modulars in this piece count range are generally at the $200 price point. So working down towards something a little more accessible by more people, hopefully, that might not be interested in jumping on the modular bandwagon, but this kind of hitting the sweet spot for that in terms of the higher piece count balanced by a lower price point. Okay guys, thanks for watching my review of the Blacksmith set, and like I said, going to be doing a few modifications, already having done some on the inside and the upper floor here. I would like to work a little bit more on this small gable end where that window is at. So maybe look at that coming up here on the channel, but we'll be doing some other stuff first. So stick around, thanks for watching Brick System Brothers, and we'll see you in the next one.